Hello and welcome to Local Link Hub's podcast, a show with local impact for global change. Local Link Hub is the localization and partnership initiative for Terre des Hommes. We are a global online platform and we provide free e-learning and capacity development resources for local and national NGOs. This project is funded by the Somaha Foundation. I'm your host, Enikő Vass, and I'm the Communications and Content Manager for Local Link Hub. And thank you for listening to today's episode, How to Better Manage Program Data with Limited Resources. Let's get started. On today's Local Link Hub podcast, I'm joined by Camille Errard, the Information Management and Mobile Data Collection Officer of CartONG. She brings over 7 years of experience in the humanitarian sector. Her career has taken her to places like Myanmar, Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria, where she worked across clusters such as child protection, livelihoods, and more recently, information management. These field experiences have shaped her approach, allowing her to stay grounded and pragmatic when supporting local organizations in strengthening their information management practices. In today's episode, we will talk about how can underfinanced local and national organizations better manage their program data, why to manage their data, what tools are available, and what benefit lies in data management. And also we will learn why Camille wants you to learn fishing rather than give you a fish. Hello Camille, it's really great to have you on our show. Today we are going to talk about data. So, daily, humanity produces 400 million of terabytes of data. Even NGOs manage 10,000 data entry points monthly. Of course, a lot of this data is not analyzed and it's not shared, and it's understandable because NGOs focus on their core activities. But why do you think it's still important for organizations to take care of their data?
Hi, Enikő. Thank you so much for having me today. Indeed, it is a great question because I do believe that it's a false belief that managing data and information properly is something you can do if you have some time left, like the last task on your to-do. But before jumping in the topic, I just would like to clarify some terms because we are often using like data management or information management or knowledge management even without really understanding what does it mean. So the first thing I would say is data, we call it as a unique element, for example, the age, the gender, the grade of a class. And it only becomes information when you start combining data to create meaning out of them. So for example, in grade 6 of this school, there are a majority of boys with 80% of them among the pupils. That's information. And the last term is knowledge. The information becomes knowledge only when it is actually actionable. So as we have more boys in grade 6, we'll maybe create awareness session on girls' education among the targeted population to reverse this tendency. So I would say that all the challenge is to evolve from data to knowledge and eventually to wisdom by learning from our mistakes to not repeat them. So when we talk about information management, in fact, pushing back this component, thinking it is a huge and impossible task to perform, is just causing a multiplicity of mistakes, frustration, loss of time even on your overall workflow. You collect incorrect data and then you don't clean them properly. You create bias analysis that just conduct the organization to take inadequate decisions eventually. So you're losing time to find documents. You're losing your mind on which version is the updated one, facing data breach, or even taking ages to produce reports on get data right. So I remember when I was in Iraq, one of the projects, it was a mental health support project. So most likely psychologists were not at all data specialists. For this project, they were spending at least 2 days to all members mobilized to collect and calculate the correct figures for the monthly report, which is huge. I mean, 2 days. So I could feel the tension in the room. The project manager was getting crazy. Everyone was shaking because we were not finding the proper data and correct figures. So after a few months, we sat and we just decided like to focus on small flows. We started to collect data properly, to train someone for data entry process, and then to work on an advanced database with like small queries to calculate automatically for us. And after a few months, we were taking less than 1 hour to actually collect the figures and fill up the monthly reports. So it means that during these 2 months, these 2 days, they were actually capable of focusing on beneficiaries and not focusing on collecting the proper figures for the monthly report, which I think makes a difference actually. So
actually, it speaks for itself, like
yeah.
2 days versus 1 hour. Wow.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference actually. And even for the stress level, I mean, they're already facing like traumatized people. So if you add stress just to collect data, what's the meaning of it? So I think organizing your process in terms of data is saving so much time in your everyday task. And actually, information management is something you should even forget about once it is well settled in your organization culture. So it's also a question of accountability, because not only towards the donors, but most importantly towards population served. If you are not able to justify the result of your action, what are you doing then? Small organizations should not underestimate the value and the necessity of justifying and showing the improvement and the added value they are providing to the people they actually serve.
Thank you for sharing your insights. Can you suggest some simple steps this organization can take to start managing their data better, even with limited resources, like in your example, for instance?
Yes, definitely. The first thing I would say is like demystifying data management among your teams. I mean, you don't need to have a PhD in data analysis or programming language to work with data. It's not true. It's not a nerd field area where algorithms are just floating in the room. You know, it's not like this. You can show to the team that with a basic Excel database, you can create an automatic dashboard and have updated figures with data entry constraint to avoid mistakes. You don't need to code in Python to do so. So I think it's really important to make understand to people that it is accessible and it can be easy if you do it step by step. The second advice I would say is to establish an overview of what works and what don't so far for your organization. Focus on creating clear and simple process for each of the information steps. For example, when I arrived in the NGO in Iraq, like, okay, how we collect data in paper? Do we want to have a mobile data application to avoid paper? And then who will be responsible to clean your data, to validate it? Where do we store it? Who has access to the storage as well? What is the naming convention? How do we call the information so we can find it back easily? And when do we decide to delete a data or a database? It's important that you get your teams in. I mean, create awareness of what is data management and data protection. Simple, easy, like just basic rules. Take time to train the key position on simple and efficient tools, I would say, like Excel, Word, KoboToolbox, your internal cloud, how we register save data. You need to enforce autonomy among the team in terms of simple everyday data management. My motto would be like, don't give me a fish, teach me how to fish instead. Because if people get comfortable doing data management, you will avoid last minute huge stress or data leaks, creating situations that you could have been prevented by raising awareness among them. And if people don't want to learn how to fish, and it can happen that some people, I remember, they didn't want to learn Excel. They were just allergic to it. Just create the desire by showing them the result or the gains they can have from learning. I mean, for example, having the nice dashboard and explaining, okay, you want this nice dashboard to be updated, then clean properly the data and you will have the dashboard updated for you. So I would say start your journey with quick wins, low-hanging fruit that are easy to reach for people. I would also say that capacity building in data management is a long-term investment. It's just not about one training, it's about developing a culture of learning within the teams. And the last thing I would say is like, keep in mind that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So what does it mean? Basically, just don't create a beautiful strategy on paper, because it will never work if it's not anchored in everyday habits that as part as your cultural organizational culture. So beautiful strategy are not lasting if it's not actually anchored in your culture.
Thank you. There are a lot of tools out there for managing data. You already mentioned some. Some of them are, paid software. Some of them are open source tools. And people are often afraid of these open source data management tools. What would you suggest? What should organization should know before choosing one or another tool for managing their data?
So actually, it is an excellent question, because if you don't have the proper tool to work, it will be difficult for you to get to manage your data correctly. But actually, the open source tools have a myriad of forums with community support and documentation. When you start, for example, to work on KoboToolbox, MySQL, or OpenStreetMaps tools, you can find community support in forums, Stack Overflow, or GitHub issues where users help each other. For popular tools like KoboToolbox or DHAS2, this can be surprisingly actually effective. You can also find a lot of online documentation and tutorial. I am absolutely a huge fan of YouTube tutorials. Like every time I start learning a new tool, I find some smart people who can explain it clearly in a couple of minutes and solve my issue. Most of the time I have my guru for each one of the tools I'm just using. And when I start learning Osmond, a mobile data collection tool for geospatial data, I just learned by imitating what they were doing on the video and just reproducing and learning like this. And actually it's a strong and powerful way to learn, and you are sure that you can find all the knowledge you need on internet. Of course, if you are really struggling, your last option would be a consultant, or maybe even some open source project have a commercial arms offering paid support, like Red Hat for Linux or HISP for DHAS2, but that's one of the last options, because actually you can do a lot with the documentation and the community support already. But I would just add, when you are choosing your tool, your open source tool, you just check a couple of things. Like first, your internal capacity. If you don't have someone who can troubleshoot or learn the tool, don't launch something without having a resource person in your teams or someone outside that can help you to start. When I think about it, I always think about peer learning, because actually there is a lot of people willing to help you when you start something. So when I started to work on Kobo, I just asked my network, do someone know about Kobo? Can I explain to me a couple of things? And actually people are super willing to help you when you start asking help like this. The other thing would be the community health. Is the tool actively maintained? Are questions answered in forums? You can clearly see that at once. There is a question also of interoperability and standards. Does it play well with other tools you use? Because open source doesn't mean open standards by default. And the last thing I would say is hidden costs. Sometimes free software isn't free if it takes weeks to configure or breaks during an update. Like time is money, so just be careful also of choosing an option, not because it's free, but because it's reliable. And the last strategic advice I would say, just don't choose a tool just because it's open source. Choose it because it fits your needs, has a strong user base, and you can realistically support it.
Nice. It's really good to consider these tips. Thank you. Let's say organizations have their tool ready, they have their data, and they, start working with the data. And in your experience, what are the common mistakes these organizations make when they start working with the data?
Indeed, there is a couple of mistakes that are repeating. First, when it comes to choose a tool, we get often super excited by the last high-tech solution, with all the options. It's like having a new car and you want all the options in your car. Or it's like being in a candy shop and you get attracted by the most colorful and biggest one. Except that most of the time we can't eat it all, or we can't have it all. We want to bite off more than we can chew. And we should start knowing our needs and our capacity in terms of time investment, for example, and then pick the tools that can be handled easily with functionalities matching your needs and also manageable maintenance. Because the second huge mistake after taking the high-tech solution with all options is that we often think that once the tool is set, it will self-maintain. Actually, it's not the magical brooms from the Sorcerer Apprentice. No, it's not cleaning your house by himself. Like, it's not working like this. There is no way you will not encounter some bugs or some evolution you want to do with your tools. So you actually need to schedule time to maintain and also to identify a person responsible for it. We actually know that when everyone is responsible, no one is. So when I was creating, for example, SharePoint intranet, I was making sure that each department had its champion identified and named within the intranet page, that everyone can know to whom they should address to request a change or an update, because the person was clearly identified. And the last thing I would say is, like, don't start with too many tools. Like, we want to have like this complex workflow with this nice interface on all the tools. Actually, the simplest is the best. One mobile data collection app and use it consistently. Same goes for your database or your visualization tools. If you start on Excel or Access, just replicate the use throughout all the project and activities. Harmonize your database, use templates, same nomenclature. I mean, you should know that nerds people are just lazy people. They just use simple way just to shortcuts. So I would say that simplicity and consistency are the key words, according to me, for data management.
Your organization, CartONG, has a vast online collection of resources about information management. I strongly recommend visit the organization's page. But can you tell us what's in the Learning Corner? I've seen that it's a myriad of tools and everything, but please show us the most important tools that you have there.
Indeed, the Learning Corner is an open platform with toolbox and trainings, and it is for all kind of levels. I mean, you don't need to be an expert in data to jump in, and it also enables skill development according to individual needs. So, for example, you want to develop your analysis capacity, just jump in the data analysis toolbox and dive in the different tools you can use and the tips depending on the type of data, for example, quantitative or qualitative data. It is also a self-paced learning, so no need to read everything. You can directly select the subpart of the toolbox you want to focus on and explore it as much time as you have. We have also different topics treated like mobile data collection or discovering mapping on GIS, responsible data management, or Excel, for example, which is a famous toolbox actually. And also, if you're a bit lost in your data management, there is no worry. We have a programmed data self-assessment methodology with tools to map your data flows in your organization and a flow chart to get quick tips depending on the action you want to perform. So actually, we regularly update the platform with new toolboxes or update the existing one. In November, for example, we are releasing the new design of the platform and as well as a new toolbox on RAD process, which is basically retention, archiving, and destruction of your data. Actions that are particularly important if you are downsizing operations, for example. And later on, we will also be releasing the Power BI toolbox, which is one of the toolbox the most requested these days. Along the Learning Corner, we also give some webinars that you can watch on our YouTube channel, CartONG channel. And for example, on the 18th and 25th of November, we will have like 2 webinars on the topic of from data cleaning to data visualization on Excel. And in these 2 webinars, we are going step by step on a case study that explain how you proceed for each step, like how you clean your data, how you analyze it, and then eventually how you build your dashboards. So when you follow this, you just can definitely do it by yourself on your side and realize the dashboard in an easy way. And all the time, I would say we focus on practical advice and realistic application. Like really the aim of CartONG is by maintaining such a platform is to enforce local empowerment and support development of a culture of learning within the team as a long-term investment for information management.
Okay, and we need to mention that the tools on the site are available in English and French as well.
Yes,
So if
indeed,
you are a
both.
French-speaking person, you can also go there and take advantage of these tools. If we talk data, we need to talk a bit about data privacy. And so I think the NGOs have a really good track record on data privacy, but how organizations can make sure their data is safe, is private, especially when using, for instance, free open source tools as well.
Indeed, when we talk about data privacy in low budget contexts, the first misconception I would say to challenge is that free open source tools are automatically insecure. In fact, many open source solutions are widely trusted because their code is transparent and audited by communities. The real vulnerability often comes from weak practices, I would say, like poor password management, lack of encryption, or uncontrolled data sharing, rather than the tool itself. In my sense, the question is, how can NGOs ensure data safety without overspending? I guess I would say that there is 3 practical steps you can take. The first one would be adopt strong governance before technology. I mean, define clear policies, who has access to data, what data is collected, how we minimize the data we are collecting, and how it is stored. Anonymization also is dramatically reducing risk. The second tips would be the leverage built-in security features. For example, many free tools offer encryption or two-factor authentication, so use them. And combine this with strong password protocols and regular updates. And the last one would be community and transparency, because open source tools often have communities, active communities that publish security patches and best practices. And NGOs should engage with these communities and follow their guidance, because actually it is accessible on the internet. I do think that privacy isn't just a technical issue, it's cultural. So training staff on responsible data handling is often more impactful than just buying an expensive software. In short, governance, good habits, and smart use of free tools can go a long way towards protecting data.
Yes, you are right. So the privacy of information becomes with the culture and it's embedded in the organization. So thank you for highlighting that. I know that smaller organizations often analyze and share the data because of the donor requirements and not because they want to improve, for instance, their functioning. What do you think donors or partners should support the better data practices in local organizations, and how, if the answer is yes?
I definitely think that all actors will gain to improve data practices, actually. The first thing I would like to say is that we should do it for the sake of the beneficiaries. I mean, we have a duty to them to protect their data and ensure that we support them depending on their needs. We always say that hell is paved with good intentions. So for me, not being able to protect data of the people we serve is actually not helping them. Worse, it can harm them, which goes against the mere principle of humanitarian action. So ethically speaking, we are all responsible to protect people by asking consent or implementing data minimization. And we have a responsibility toward them and also toward the country where we operate. As a humanitarian organization, we should not fill reports just to get correct figures to please donors or partners, or just tick the box. We should first and foremost do it for the people we help. And by knowing and analyzing their needs, being able to monitor the improvement generated by the project and also deterioration of their situation, that can lead us to question our actions, adapt them, or accept that we need to withdraw because we can't help them properly. So that would be the first thing I would just push to the fore. So how donors and partners can support this? Well, especially in those days of budget restrictions, donors should understand that including a line for IT devices, software subscriptions, or staff training is necessary. We don't get things done properly if we don't give the capacity to do so. Yes, it is not sexy at all or trendy to finance tablets or like to finance Power BI license, but it is what helps us to get consistent and qualitative data to then communicate on NGOs' actions and advocate for the people in need. Another action that can be done is to enforce basic information management process. For example, request partners to share databases with a password, give awareness about anonymization and pseudonymization process, create minimum standards that should be written in every partnership agreement is how we can enforce, not only from donors, from partners, but from all of us, these habits of data management and data protection for the sake of the people.
I can just agree with you. It's not sexy to finance the tablets, but it's a necessity for sure. So Camille, to wrap up our conversation, if an organization listening to our podcast gets inspired and wants to start right away with the information management tool after this podcast, what would you suggest they should try at least in their organization?
Well, I would say pick something easy, build a strong basis, and then add new tools if needed. So, for example, start with a strong mobile data collection tool. If you are collecting non-geographic data, you can use KoboToolbox. It's an easy way. Otherwise, you can use GFILD, compatible with QGIS, or Osmond, which are also good options. For database, if you don't have an extensive amount of data, Excel will work with strong pivot table and basic VBA queries coded could already do miracles to you. You can also have a strong dashboard attached to it. But if you go for more robust database, SQL becomes really handy in that case. I would say that reliable cloud and data storage is also important. So once again, all is about consistency and getting an easy tools to use, adapted to your needs, and then use it consistently throughout the project and activities.
Thank you so much, Camille. Have a nice day. And to our listeners, please come to CartONG's webinars. We will share the dates with you for sure.
Thank you very much, Enikő. It was a pleasure.
I'm Enikő Vass, and you've been listening to our Local Link Hub podcast. We had help from Judit Németh-Almási. Thanks to all of you for listening, and thank you Camille Errard from CartONG for joining me today on this Local Link Hub podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to learn more about the data management tools, visit CartONG's website at cartong.org. Or if you would like to use Local Link Hub's free resources, please visit our website at locallink.charthub.org. If you have any comments on the episode or want to share your thoughts, contact us via social media on Facebook or LinkedIn, or email us on locallink@charthub.org. Thanks for joining. See you on our next episode.